Hello, everybody. This is the Halo After Show. We are discussing episode 8 of Halo titled Allegiance. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And right off the bat, we're Dad and Rock. If you don't know who we are, you should by now. I mean, I assume you're not checking in on episode 8 as your first episode, but maybe. We do after shows of all kinds of stuff. We've done it for Ted Lasso, a lot of the Marvel, Disney Plus stuff. We'll be covering The Boys on Amazon Prime coming up here in June. But yeah, what do you think of this episode of Halo?
First impression when I watched it through the first time, just before I do notes on it,
Yeah.
I was perplexed. Like first half of the episode, I was kind of like, I fought back the urge to pick up my phone. Like this, I've not had that urge to pick up my phone in
Oh,
other
you were
episodes.
bored.
So this one here, like the first half of it, I was like, I fought. I didn't pick it up, but there was that urge, like my hand wanted to go to it.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the episode was a whole different like it felt different. It was more upbeat. There was more action. We were seeing a lot more like of the plot finally playing out. Like we
Yeah.
kind of were thinking things were going to go.
Yeah, the tension really ramped up there the second half. I agree with that. The first one, literally, the first half was a stroll in the park.
Yeah. What did you think of Sexy Time?
I called it last week, didn't I? When they had that moment together and he caressed her face. That is cinematic language for love, my friend. Everybody was like, I don't know. I mean, but
I was hoping they weren't going to do the Wookiee. Or the Wookiee, whatever you want to say it.
They did the Wookiee, yeah. He's as tall as a Wookiee. There's a big height difference between the two actors, yeah.
Oh dear Lord, that's something. Yeah, when that happened, I was like, man, this is unnecessary. That was honestly my thought. I was like, I didn't want this, didn't need this. This wasn't. I mean, I can understand them once again humanizing her. They humanized John in episode 1. They kind of humanized her in this episode until the point where, later in the episode, all the things kind of took place.
I wouldn't have bought her taking that weapon out of her finger if she hadn't have done that with John, honestly. It was that moment. It was right after that she did that.
Dude, could you watch that?
Oh, it was pretty graphic. It was gross, yeah.
Oh man, see, I watched the first time just cringing. When I did our notes, I fast forwarded. I didn't want to see any of that. I was like, man, that was just too on the nose. Like pulling man,
a little much for you.
Yeah, a little much. Seeing that I've had a history of like ingrown nails and having them ripped off. Yeah. No, I know the pain, and no, I didn't want nothing to do with it.
Well, she disarmed herself. I mean, she made herself totally vulnerable to this place and to these people who, she thought were her enemies, at least at one point. I wasn't ready for the total character shift and swing. I mean, by the end of this episode, she's right back to where we found her. I mean, she's like, nope, humanity sucks. I was right.
Well, Parangosky did it to her.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I don't buy Parangosky. Like the acting and everything, there's so much good acting.
Yeah.
And like when she was in the command room and she's like, oh, he's just taking a stroll in the park. That's not the 117 I used to. It seemed CW cheesy to me. Like everything else everything else has been like a high quality.
Yeah.
That and her character, I don't know if it's her acting or if it's the writing for her character.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems not believable at all.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Especially, I was feeling that exact same way when Makee was getting stunned, and Parangosky had a little smile on her face, like she was a little smug and satisfied with herself that this little woman person who's probably like 4.5 feet tall.
I know, maybe
was getting like stunned. Yeah, like, boy, you really happy with yourself there, Parangosky? Like, it's just unnecessary. Like, if you don't trust that, just throw her back in the brig. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there was a lot of ups and downs in this episode here.
Yeah.
Like I said, the second time through I watched it, I enjoyed it a lot more than I did the first time. The first time, I think, like I said, first half of the episode just kind of caught me funny.
Right.
And then I was so kind of off kilter from that first half. I don't think I enjoyed the second half as much as I did or would have.
Right.
What
I do like that we finally got conflict and confrontation between the Spartans, though. That
And
was
you've been calling that a mile away.
yeah,
You've seen that actual confrontation coming. And
right.
I've been kind of playing that I don't know if they're actually gonna go that route, but yeah, they did.
Yeah,
And it was like half of them, like well, John and Kai, who didn't have the actual uh the pellet in their back anymore, and it was
yeah,
against basically Riz and Venek, who still do, so who are still under complete control
right.
by Halsey, and they don't know the truth because John and Kai haven't shared it with them.
We even if they did share it with them, I think they're probably because of the influence of the pellet and everything. They're probably so far gone they wouldn't even listen. Honestly,
That's
um,
probably true. I can buy that. But
um, we
so what
just
was
want to start.
something that stood out to you in this episode? Like, was there one thing, like one storyline, one thing that you got that you've been? I mean, you pretty much called the conflict between the Spartans, but was there anything else that like you were like, that's what I was looking for?
If but besides those two things, was probably Cortana finally separating herself from Halsey. It seems like a lot of this season has been kind of a tug of war game between Halsey and John, between who has Cortana's heart.
Well,
um,
you've seen it in this episode. The more that Halsey was talking, the more things that were Halsey was doing, you've seen an expression on Cortana's face.
yeah,
And it's kind of like what we highlighted earlier when where they were going back to Aridness.
yeah,
And it was like, what if he remembers everything? What if he takes us down? They show her turning and walking away, and that's what we have Cortana for.
hmm,
She had a similar look on her face there, which kind of foreshadowed this episode where she basically took John's side.
right. Halsey called on to it this episode too. I mean, so far she's been pretty ignorant to. I think she just kind of assumes Cortana's her creation, and she has a thumb over her. And it's this episode where Cortana finally makes the choice and disappears from Halsey's room and like takes their access away.
Oh
That
yeah, shuts down the cameras,
yeah,
starts to try to warn John that what he's
yeah.
walking into.
There's
And
a laugh of disbelief on Halsey. Halsey at first she looks shocked, and then she actually smiles and laughs like, "Oh, I can't believe that just happened." Like this is probably a weird feeling for her to have something not go her way or something unexpected happen, especially from
really,
one of her creations.
and she knocked herself completely out
Yeah,
because when she was pulled out of her lab, she had Dr. Dumbass go ahead and lock everything down so no one can actually get to where Cortana is.
right.
So she can't get in, even though she has this retinal thing that she did really creepily to her daughter.
Yeah.
That, yeah, I don't know, man, dude.
Did we get payoff on that? I mean, I know she was granted access. Was that whole thing just so she could have that conversation with Makee?
I think it was gonna be more.
Yeah,
Like, I think she intended more. I don't know if the show intended more,
right.
but she actually got that access so she can access Makee and try to get her to have John bring it to the Keystone to her. So I
Yeah.
think that was kind of her end goal. I don't know if it was going to be she would have more access to do more things outside
I
of what
guess
the show was
I
requiring.
guess story-wise, it was pretty important. I mean, it was really between that conversation that she has with Makee and Makee's experience with them kind of betraying her and stunning her and Parangoski doing what she did. That's what kind of I think was a combined effort that really kind of set her back into her place.
I think if it wasn't for what happened at the end, I think if what happened at the end of the episode
Hmm.
still happened, I think she would be at the same spot. I think just the whole conversation between her and Halsey was almost pointless. I mean, the only thing that was doing for the audience and for her was telling us and her that both the Covenant and humanity want, the Keystone and everything for the same exact reason. They want to be elevated to like a godlike level. When she called her out on it, and as soon as
Right.
she heard that, she basically shut her down. She was just calling her on her bullshit.
Yeah, she did. She shut her down, but she also flashed back to, you know, she was actually flashing back to the conversation as she was getting shocked and stunned. So I think it didn't have an effect in that moment because she was still on the side of John and humanity, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
But basically, Parangosky's actions later in the episode kind of confirmed that seed of doubt that she had already. For me, anyway. Yeah, I don't think Halsey changed her mind, but she planted a seed that Parangosky helped grow later.
Kind of forward along, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about, Cortana and her actions. We actually have a clip of that kind of interaction when Cortana goes and actually and helps John here. So let's go ahead and check that out real quick.
Stop! Why'd they stop? What's the problem?
Halsey initiated the Zed protocol.
John,
You're walking into a trap.
what's happening?
Turn around and get out now.
Agent!
I've lost everything.
Cortana!
I've lost Halsey.
We've been compromised.
Uh-oh.
Dude, I'd see that's cool. I like how he finally listened to her. When he yelled stop.
Yeah.
Well, she yelled stop. He's like, hold on. She's actually being
There's some desperation in her voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And what do you think of the Zed protocol? What Halsey went and activated? Don't you think that's kind of there's one of those things that weren't put in place, a failsafe that they were talking earlier? Why would they give her the ability basically to completely overthrow the government because she controls these 4 super soldiers?
Oh, do you think the UNSC willingly gave Halsey that power? I just assumed that was just a backdoor. I mean, think of a hacker, a computer programmer. Like,
Yeah,
think of a computer programmer that works for a company. You think that company knows everything that computer program's going to do with his programs? Like,
that's putting into it. Yeah, that's a very good point. Probably not. No, I mean they
yeah,
all are aware of what that protocol is. Because as soon as Cortana goes ahead and says, Halsey's activated the Z protocol, he's
right,
like, okay. He tells Makee to go.
yeah.
He knows what's coming, and he's like, I'm not just walking away. Like they said, he's not going to go down without a fight.
And I don't think for the Spartans it's a conscious thing. Honestly, I think they're like literal legit program. They're almost like kind of brainwashed. Like, we fight for the UNSC unless this protocol is enacted, and then they know, like,
Order
at
66.
yeah, essentially that's what it reminds me of. Like, I think I don't know if their loyalty to Halsey is something that they're conscious of. I don't think like they go around walking around thinking like, oh, I'm with the UNSC unless Halsey tells me not to be, then I'm definitely with Halsey. I think it's just something that was enacted and enabled as kind of like a programming kind of
I
thing.
say this is the second time it's happened. The first time it happened in was episode 1 when John was coming back with Quan. And they were going after John, and she said, defend John at all cost.
Hmm.
If anyone tries to hurt him, they are no longer friendlies.
Yeah.
So this is the second time that she's turned the Spartans basically on the UNSC within this, 8 episodes to this point.
Right. I don't know. It must be some sort of a balance. It was kind of the evil that they needed, right? Like they probably felt as though they couldn't run the Spartan program without Halsey. Especially because she probably put all these back doors in place. I mean, the days after they're finally kicking her out of the program. The Spartans that are left, that didn't take their pellets out anyway.
Yeah.
Turn on them. So that's probably something they had their minds on the entire time. But it's like, what are you going to do? They had a bigger enemy to fight. This whole time it's been a fight against the Covenant. So it's like you got to do what you got to do. And I think maybe Chris or myself might be out. I'm just gonna go on. Maybe Chris is the one having issues. Um, but yeah, they ended up in this episode a planet that I don't remember the name of. Maybe Criterion. That's what's written in the notes here. But I don't know if that's something that was mentioned before. Was this planet? I don't know if we've been there. But we see it devastated. They say glassed, or John mentions the word glassed, and it's I mean, we see the aftermath. The place looks like Mustafar, basically. It's all hot lava. The planet is lava, and yeah, they wipe out a whole planet civilization. The Covenant does. I don't know. There's really no rhyme or reason as to why that happened. Oh, Chris finally gone. Maybe he'll come back. um, yeah, I'm not sure if we were given any kind of indication or have visited this planet at any point. It doesn't seem it was kind of unfamiliar to me, but it was familiar to the people, on the ship and in the UNSC. You could see the hurt and damage that caused. They had loved ones there, um, and I didn't get the I guess the seriousness of the situation. Like Star Wars, they have the Death Star and blowing up Alderaan. I mean, that was a big deal, right? But that was kind of a one-time thing, and they were able to basically carry a whole trilogy of movies on that, like that threat. And I don't know how much of a threat this is in the Halo universe. Being unfamiliar with it, I don't know if that's something that happens all the time or what. But anyway, we're gonna give Chris a moment here to get back on. Let's see. Oh, Romello says, "Yeah, Chris's cam is frozen." Thanks, Romello. Romello, I need you, pal. What did you think about this episode specifically? Have they mentioned this Criterion planet before? The city of Agade, 11 million dead. I don't remember that being referenced before, but maybe it was, and I'm just missing it. While I wait for that, let me go ahead and play the other clip that we have as we're talking about the events of this episode. It was kind of a crazy episode, like we mentioned. The first half of it was a little bit slower, a little bit more plot driven, and then stuff really started to ramp up. But let's check out this clip with Miranda.
Doctor, it's time.
Just stop talking, please. Oh my God, it's her. This is Dr. Keyes. I need to speak to Captain Keyes. Do you have comms?
No.
Well, that boy's crystal clear, okay?
Yes, doctor.
There we go. I was just talking to myself there for a minute.
I know. The whole house went down. Like the kids' TVs were out. My stiffening went out. I don't know what happened.
Oh, well, here we are. You're back.
Okay.
You're back better than ever.
Better than ever, baby.
Romello did fill in for a second there. He said, "Yeah, your cam was frozen," and then I actually started talking about the planet that was glassed.
Okay.
That it looked like Mustafar. It was just a whole planet of lava, and I couldn't remember if this planet had been mentioned before. Romello chimed in. I don't think it was referenced in the show before.
Yeah, no, this was the first time they actually brought it up. Yeah, was it Criterion?
Criterion in the city of Agade. Or
Agade was the main city they were showing. It was the second city that fell. And they said over 11 million people were killed in that city alone. So we're finally seeing the how deadly the Covenant can actually be.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that we didn't see any of that on screen. It was kind of just this news report. We learned of it like the characters did. And it's so far away. We don't have any backstory with this planet. I mean, you get a little bit by the reaction of the people that are really upset. You could tell they probably have family there or whatnot. But I guess that was all. And I was mentioning while you were gone, like, it's funny because in Star Wars, we had the Death Star, and the destruction of Alderaan was enough to be a threat for like a whole trilogy of movies.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, how often this kind of thing happens in the Halo universe. Like, they even have a term for it. It got glassed. So maybe it happens more often.
It must happen. Yeah, it must happen often. Because I mean, that was a term that after having that one show with Christopher, he kind of mentioned, the origin story and everything about how Reach is eventually glassed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I thought they were going with this. Now I still think it's possible. I feel like they're building like this finale. They're setting it up big. I think they're setting up some big battle that's going to take place, and it's going to take place on Reach.
Yeah. Well, do you think it's going to be Reach or Madrigal? Because they spent all this time on Madrigal, and they have these characters that are just waiting for John. They swear that John's coming back.
You know what? Glass Madrigal. I don't care. I want to go back to that planet. I am so done with that planet and that storyline and Quan. I don't care about the Mystics. Soren, dude, you're just a casualty of that storyline. He was a cool character, and they just wasted him. in my
I
opinion.
guarantee you we're gonna go back next episode, and the plot line, the A and B plot lines are gonna collide.
Do you think there's going to be another piece or some other that portal has to have something, we have to go
Right.
back.
Yeah.
There's no way we cannot go back to Madrigal because of the portal and the relevance of these. They were even saying that John in the visions is going to come back.
Right.
So John's got to come back. There's going to be Quan. There's going to be the portal. I think the portal is going to have something to do with the Keystone and that piece
Mm-hmm.
that the Covenant have. So you're absolutely right. For somehow and some reason, we're going to wind up back on Madrigal. Now, how they're going to do it and how they're going to get back to it quickly, because they have to pick up right from where they left off here.
Oh yeah,
because they left off basically. Rizwa had the gun pulled on John. Makee hit the Keystone, and they went back to that vision, back on the Halo Array or wherever they actually go.
right.
When they kind of like their
Yeah,
presence,
and then she says, "Sorry, John," and then he kind of passes out, and that was it.
Yeah, she says her goodbyes because she's like, you
Yeah.
know what? No, you almost had me. Because this was what Mercy warned her about.
Right.
Was like, you're going to encounter people like yourself. Are you going to become a part of them? And she reassured them that she wasn't. And she almost, because she had that human touch finally. She never
Right.
had that, that sensation.
Yeah.
And if it was just her and John, I don't think she would go back to the actual Covenant at all.
No, I think she made that choice by taking that weapon out of her finger. As gruesome as that scene was, it was a very good identifier of letting us know, the audience, that she's made a choice here. Like that's a big deal, taking that secret weapon away from herself, which was kind of her only insurance as far as things got, dicey.
Well, she was laying there in bed with him, and she kind of ran that finger along his neckline and down his dog chain. So she could have easily just killed him right there with it.
Yep.
And that, like I said, that's when she walked over, and I can never unsee that.
It was pretty gruesome, but good storytelling in that moment anyway.
Yeah,
What
no,
about
absolutely.
that guy that's always that same guard that's always outside her room, just giving her crap all the time?
Who are you talking to?
It was the
He's
guy
the
that
one
was
that
actually
stuns her at the end.
Yeah.
I guess it's cheaper to have one guard rather than have a bunch of rotating ones.
I guess so. It's just unnecessarily rude to her, but I mean, this whole civilization is probably going to be.
That's my squid head. I'm not leaving.
Yeah, exactly. While you were gone, I was trying to push for time, so I was like, well, let's just run the other clip. That's what you came back in on, is us going over the Miranda coming across the voice finally. This whole episode, she's trying to figure it out. And as everything's happening, as action is ramping up and a ton of different things are going on, that's just one more to add to the list. She actually finds out that Makee is the voice on that transmission.
You had to have seen that coming, though. They were basically they were setting that up the whole episode,
right?
Because even when she's in her basically in her lab, and Captain Keyes comes in, and he's like, "What are you working? Or you will work on that?" Or he's even leaning into it. Or how about an accent or something? So he's kind of like, there may be an accent or something. And that's exactly what it was. It was just another, this wasn't what their normal transmission.
It was a human accent.
Yeah.
You kind of hit the nail on the head there, and she got it. She was able to, turn enough dials enough times to get it to work and get a clear distinction of her voice, which, it felt a little writerly. It felt a little very coincidental, like, in all actuality.
The timing,
the timing of it all was kind of, anyway, kind of a happenstance, but, it did ramp up the tension. It's like one more thing. It was kind of one more thing to put her off the edge, right? Like Miranda busting in the room and saying, like, no, she's the one that killed all those people. I mean, she probably wouldn't have got
fessed up to it immediately. She said, I had no choice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like she tried to hide anything. She could have said no, or, what are you talking about? Or you played that card to buy her a few more minutes, but she went right to it and was like just straight with it.
I have expected her to say something about that, as like her and John were riding in the elevator to the Keystone or the artifact. She didn't bring it up though. There basically wasn't enough time, because pretty much as soon as they're walking in this warehouse area, that's when Cortana jumps in and tells them to stop.
Yeah. What'd you think of the whole like storyline with Kai this episode. They're like, how, is she ready? What kind of stupid ass question is that? Or is she mission ready? Or it's like, the back and forth between Riz and Venick. And then they show her basically, winning bets by pulling these big ass, weighted items up. And she's like, well, one was like a big weight. One was one was a
warthog.
The warthog.
Yeah. With 3 people inside of it.
Yeah.
It was endearing, right? Because this whole time it's been like, oh, where's her headspace? And like when she kind of freaked out on the battlefield, but like, I didn't get much of her character. We didn't get much of these Spartans, the first couple episodes. And we don't really know what she was like when she had that pellet in, but her, Kai having her pellet out, I like Kai. Like she's just like, she was joking around with the rest of the UNC, like the grunts.
Up. You got something heavy.
Yeah. And they were loving it. They were loving her. She was one of the group. She wasn't like, because this whole time it's all very like, oh, let's respect the Spartans and let's kind of keep our distance because they're so special. But she kind of took that aura off of herself, and you can tell that she's just relating to these folks as people. Which is probably different than what they're used to from these Spartans.
Oh yeah, because at the end when Zed the protocol was brought into place, they see those 3 walking through, and everyone is standoffish.
Yep.
Everyone's like, oh, something's up that we don't know about.
Right.
And then you see Kai's actual responses. Her body's responding to the stresses.
Yep. The hormone levels, which Halsey sees, and
she shuts her down.
Yeah,
she's willing to sacrifice everything, like she said earlier in the episode.
Yeah, she does it once with Kai. Like she actually does it in the moment. Like the strain over with her actual family has been going on for years, but Cortana witnesses in the moment her just cutting off Kai like nothing, and then later in the episode, she's basically going to do the same thing to John, where she assures Cortana, she's like, yeah, I mean, you're just going to take over John's body from now on. That's what you wanted, right? Like, John just won't be a thing ananymore. It'll be you. And
once we have Makee, we don't need John.
Yeah, and Cortana, having her already cut off Kai the way she did, she's just like, she's shook. It shakes Cortana. She's like, I don't know if Cortana was ever like part of that agreement. Like, maybe that's what she was designed for, but it's definitely not what she's wanted the last few episodes,
because
anyway.
the AI in her, basically when she's been there, she's learning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. She's learning all types of, I mean, you basically look at her kind of in the, to draw a comparison to another sci-fi show, Data.
Mm-hmm.
He was learning while he was going. He was a cyborg, and, we're looking, AI. They're not that different in reality.
Yeah. That was my favorite part of Next Generation, was Data becoming more human.
Yeah, and we're seeing it with her. She's having these emotions. She was sitting there and she was kind of creepily watching John and Makee have sexy time, and
I didn't know how to read that scene. I don't know if it was like jealousy and she didn't even understand what she was feeling and she was actually feeling jealousy, or if she was just trying to or she literally just could have been reading their think it was fascinating that they were sharing the same levels of serotonin or whatever. Like she really could have just been clinical about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
with her, but that scene was a little awkward with her just kind of like staring at them.
But I mean, the whole way from the minute we met her, when she was actually had a physical body, all the way to now, you can see the progression of what she's learning along the way and the development of her character also.
Yeah.
Which went ahead and gave her the ability to go ahead and cut Halsey off. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for when she was going to go ahead and say, you know what, enough's enough. I'm with John, because she's always been saying, I'm concerned with John. John is my concern. Me and John are one.
Right.
So there's always been that in the part of when she's talking.
Yeah.
So I was waiting, because her and Halsey aren't one. Or Dr. Dumbass, or or anybody
he definitely
else.
Is not. He was showing some aggression towards Cortana that I haven't even either seen or even noticed in the other episodes. But he was really, he does not like Cortana.
Well, he was like, I knew she'll do this. I knew she'll cut us out.
Yeah.
Type situation. So that whole thing. But back to Kai, dude. They punched her in the face hard.
Oh yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Done knocked her out and then locked her up underneath some type of, wash bench in that bathroom of theirs.
Right. But she got out though. I mean, she's still a Spartan. She's still a Spartan wearing that armor. So it's like she was able to get out and join the fight later in the episode. And I kind of hope, the Spartans were fairly disposable earlier in this season, but I like Kai enough where I hope she returns for season 2, or I don't know, hopefully we'll see her again in the last episode, because her story is interesting. It's not as melancholy as John's. You know what I mean? Like, I like her enjoying her newfound freedom,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. I don't honestly. I think we're gonna see the end of Riz and we're gonna see the end of Venick
Hmm.
next episode. Um,
Maybe Kai too.
I think Kai too. 'Cause if there's a battle
Yeah.
and she doesn't have, she doesn't have the Paladin, and we already seen her getting overwhelmed once.
Right.
She's gonna look around and all these newfound friends she has, all these UNSC Marines that she's becoming friends with. She's gonna see all of them being killed.
Yeah.
So she's gonna have that overwhelming, emotion that hit her when they were on the other planet, Eridnus. For some reason, I can't stick with that one.
Because you want to say arid anus like I do.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, I don't think either of them are going to make it out. I really don't. But who knows, really?
I mean, this episode did all the things that a penultimate episode typically does, like where it really kind of ramps up the plot and the action in a kind of a breathless way to really kind of throw you into the finale. Not really sure what direction we're going to go into as far as how they end a season of television,
Yeah.
So by that, I think the episode did its job. It was a little maybe uneven, where it was moving a little slow in the first half and then just really ramped up to where you couldn't catch your breath in the second half. There was so much going on. And just the whiplash back and forth with Makee too, because you and I in the past we were talking about Makee and what her eventual outcome would be, but she made a total 360 in this episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I don't know, man. This one here, I mean, there was a lot to it. Like I said, I enjoyed the second half. If there was one thing I learned in this episode, is a Spartan can take a punch.
Yeah.
Between John and Kai. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And I loved how when John was actually fighting, we actually got to see John and Cortana working as one.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, finally, right?
Yeah, when she's like, go after his left leg because of, the actuator is down, or I'm going to gun the Warthog and went after him, pinned him, or, the
He's
hook.
got 2% of his shields left. Yeah, she's giving him the data. That's how it works in the games, right? Like, she's supposed to be giving you all the real-time data around with the environment around you to make John and Master Chief a better warrior,
Yeah.
And we actually got to see that in action finally in this show, where, and I've kind of hated this whole time that John's just kind of like dismissed her every episode. Even since when he first got her, he's been dismissing her this whole time. So hopefully maybe he'll learn to embrace Cortana a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think he's going to. I think just that little bit of, her giving him a heads up when he was with Makee, to the point where she's helping him in the battle. I think I think it's a stretch. I think it's just for us to go ahead and draw the connect the dots. But I think he's going to trust her going forward.
Yeah, I hope so, because it's like, and this whole time Cortana's just been like, look, man, I'm on your side. If you're gone, I'm gone. So it's like, it's in my best interest to make sure you're good.
Well,
So,
like, I'm going to remove you from my head.
Yeah, he's been kind of a jerk this whole time, but I get it. He's just recently had emotions. He doesn't know how to work through them. Or it's kind of like a kid growing up. Kids are jerks sometimes, but they don't know any better.
Sometimes.
Sometimes adults are jerks and don't know how to work through their emotions.
Yeah, most of the times.
Yeah.
But yeah, was there anything else in this episode that we're missing? So we had the beginning of it, the book. I thought that was big.
Yeah.
When John brought her the book that she was basically carrying along with her with the Covenant. So I thought that was a good character beat.
Just like Beauty and the Beast, when he gives her that library, that was his in. Just give her another book. She's only had one book this whole time. Now she's got 2.
Of the exact same book. Okay. But we have more.
Let's see here. Ramela says to check the preview for next week's episode.
Is it up yet? Because I looked for it yesterday, and then I looked for it again today, and I couldn't find anything on Paramount.
Oh, I don't know. Here, let me look for something real quick. Why don't you stall for time for a minute, just like I did
me
earlier?
stall for time.
Yeah. Let me. Well, let's see. What's another question I can ask you here?
Well, do you think? Okay, well, I'll put this out there. We'll just I'll start talking.
Yeah.
Halsey went ahead and told the Spartans to get the Keystone to her. But when Riz finally got free, not Riz, Kai got free, she told all the Marines to go ahead and do not let that ship take off. Shoot it down if necessary. So now all her friends that know her, and she's a Spartan on top of that, would take orders from her. If they can't communicate with anyone else because all the comms are down, I believe it's realistic to think that the chain of command would revolve around the Spartans. So if that's going on there, and John is, in battle with, Riz and Venick, she's running that way. It's like, will that Keystone ever make it to Halsey?
I don't know. She seems to be like stalling for time in her ship with Dr. Dumbass. We forgot the name of him once again. We'll just revert back to the nickname.
Not relevant.
Yeah. He so yeah, they're both like he tells her we need to take off because basically like he doesn't
Your Spartans aren't going to get it here. We've got to leave.
It really just depends on how the next episode opens. Like I think maybe they will. I mean, John's down for the count. We leave him and his face is in the ground.
But he got hit with that blast as well as everybody else.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And he's the only one that could absorb it.
Right.
So we've seen in the past it actually level everybody and then not level him. This one leveled him because he was pretty much leveled already. But I can see everyone else down, him stand up and say, grab the Keystone and do his own thing with it.
I don't know. Maybe he gives. Maybe she does end up getting it because maybe he has to give chase. But then we also have to end up on Madrigal too. So
hear me.
I don't know
how
that's going to work.
I'm going to throw the brakes on this here. Hear me out on this, and remember, y'all want your opinion on this as well. Makee has the ability to call to the Covenant. When she slapped her hand on that Keystone, do you think the other piece would have resonated and told him where the other one was? So if they're coming, they now know where the second piece is. They pick up the Keystone, they pick up Makee. They are now heading back because she now knows something that maybe we haven't figured out yet or haven't been told yet about this portal. So they're going back to Madrigal after whatever damage they've done here. So now the UNSC is now in chase to Madrigal, and that's how everyone gets back to that point. Now the Covenant has both pieces, but don't know what to do with it.
I think we are. I think, that just makes sense for a season of television. We've had these separate plots with these characters on different planets. It just makes sense that for our finale, we're going to have everybody together. There's the Covenant with Makee and John and the UNSC, Halsey and the other Spartans, and Soren and who's Quan. Yeah. I was going to say who Soren's been babysitting this whole time. That one person. That's how little I care about that plot, I guess. But I think we're going to see all of them at the same location.
So we know there's a season 2.
Yeah.
Because they've already announced that.
Yeah.
How much of season 1 is going to bleed over into season 2? Because Makee's a story point for the show. She has nothing to do with any other canon.
Yeah.
Essentially, I think if I know right, so is Quan. So there's some points in this where they can, if they want to go more into what canon is, and they were telling the backstory of how he becomes who he is.
Yeah.
They can almost, reboot's the wrong way to put it, but they can almost just launch into something separate after the season's over. Like they can go ahead and there can be a big battle on him as everyone is killed and he gets away, somehow.
I almost expect that. I almost expect, how like most shows, you just pick up right where you left off from the previous season. Sometimes it'll be in the same location or same scene, and it'll just be a continuation of the story. I almost feel like this show has the freedom to just do something devastating at the end of this season and almost push the reset button to start a season 2.
What if next season started with John being a capture of the Covenant?
That would be pretty deathifying. That would be interesting because he's their demon or whatever.
Yeah, and it would all be about him fighting his way out, battling out, still having that connection to Makee. If she's still there, there'd be still that connection. So it'd still be that turmoil.
And he
that
still have
she would
Cortana
have.
on his side too.
And Cortana.
Yeah.
So he would be, trying to free himself from this situation, and that could be a storyline for season 2.
That could be. All right. Well, I was able to find the trailer for the final episode here. You want to give it a run?
Let's go for it, because I was looking for it immediately. Because I was like, I want to see what they're going to give us.
All right. Let's share here, share audio, and see if we can figure out what's going on for the finale of season 1.
Makee took the artifact. She's gone.
Cortana,
Yes, John.
I'm gonna need you now.
We need to leave now.
We still have options.
The Covenant planet could be right there. We just can't see it.
I'll send the Marines.
You send 10,000 Marines, you lose 10,000 Marines. Silver Team can do it. Afternoon. Come to daddy.
I don't know what I just watched.
I don't know either.
Who are these? I mean, that voice, "Come to Daddy."
That sounded like Venick.
Did it sound like Venick?
To me, it did. Yeah.
Okay.
And it looks like the Spartans are all on the same side again. Are these? Oh, there's one Spartan.
Yeah, there's Spartans and Marines.
Master Chief's back in his helmet. All you Halo heads can thank your Halo gods that he's wearing his helmet again.
Okay, so that's both pieces. So okay,
this is definitely Madrigal, right?
No, I don't think it's Madrigal, because look at the planet in the back. We're on a different location. This is because they showed like a whole different. Yeah, no, that's like a temple or something.
Maybe it's the other side of whatever portal. I don't know. It's tough to say. I don't see any Soren or Quan in this trailer either. So maybe their story is done until a season 2. I don't know. That's interesting.
I don't know. Could they leave us like that? Could they leave it where...
I assume this was a Madrigal, because Madrigal is all like sand and sandstone and browns and tans.
But yeah, the only reason I don't think it is because of the shot you stopped on right there.
Yeah, with the planet behind it.
With the planet behind it, as big as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of crazy. They give it's within reach. I mean, that's got to be a little bit of wordplay, right?
Yeah, so I think whatever's going to take place is going to take place close to Reach itself.
That's a great shot. I love that shot. He's finally listening to Cortana. He's finally open. Go ahead, John.
It's like he's married. He's finally listening. Oh, there's Dr. Dumbass.
Dr. Dumbass. Okay, so that was a cool trailer. Very short. I mean, not even a minute long. It looks like a heck of a lot of action, though. A lot of...
But that's been what a lot of people's biggest complaint has been, outside of John being outside of his helmet.
Yeah.
It's like there hasn't been action driven, which okay, I can kind of see that. There's been a lot of plot. A lot of season 1s of shows are building story, and then that second one is when a lot of it takes off.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
I've never
oh, go ahead.
Is even asking if the Covenant is even the main enemy in the next season. Is there another enemy within the Halo world outside of the Covenant? Is that right? I have no idea about.
Maybe Ramel already knows, and he's just teasing us because he knows that we don't know.
That's very possible. They're just messing with us now. Okay, I mean, to this point here. Okay, well, guys, no spoiler here. This is my last show, the Halo After Show. We're gonna have a guest host next week. He was on episode 2, so hopefully he'll be able to make it here for a season finale. I am going to be on a family vacation, so I won't be able to make this one. I may try to sign in on my phone if I'm just kind of sitting in the hotel. May get in trouble by the wife as well.
Just leave comments like I did when I was sick. Yeah, Christopher will be back. He was here episode 2. It'll just be he and I. He's our resident Halo head. He's read some of the books, and he's played all the games and stuff. So he should be pretty informative. So yeah, look forward to that, and that'll be the final episode of season 1 of Halo. It's been, as far as the reaction to it, there's been love for it, there's been hate for it. It's been divisive, but you and I so far have enjoyed it.
It's been a mixed bag, but I think as a whole for Paramount, it's been a home run.
Oh yeah.
Just because, I mean, just the word of mouth. Even if people are hating something, they're watching it because they got to know what they're hating.
Right. And I'll say this is a little outside of the Halo talk, but like Paramount Plus as a streaming service, they've had some hits on their hands so far between all the Star Trek shows that people seem to be fans of. Even this newest one that premiered this week, there's a ton of critical praise for it. The seasons of Picard, there's Halo, of course, and then a lot of the Yellowstone related stuff. I don't know if you're a Yellowstone guy, but that prequel they had, 1883, I watched all of that. I loved it.
My kids love it for the Nickelodeon side of it, the Loud House.
Yeah,
they watch that nonstop. So this is, I didn't think this would be one of their streaming services that I would have on all the time.
Yeah,
but I watch it at least once a week, twice a week, just preparation for our show.
Right.
But then the kids are watching it as well.
Yeah.
So it's one of those ones that is constantly in rotation. As in, actually, right now, I think it's on more than it is Disney Plus is in my household.
Yeah, because I'll go back to Disney when they have their big tentpole show going on, right?
Yeah.
And maybe just here and there, but I probably watch Paramount Plus a little bit more consistently. Yeah. But
Romello says there are other biggie baddies out there in the universe.
I would hope so. Yeah, we mentioned earlier this season, like, what if eventually humanity and the Covenant have to, fight some other third entity that we're just not aware of?
You got to kind of, the lesser of two evils type setup.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, and there would be the connection between Makee and John.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I think a lot of the UNSC is going to be beaten down heavy.
Yeah.
In this next episode.
Yeah, it's going to be action-packed for sure. And we'll be here, of course, next weekend. Me and Christopher, who will be our special guest for the finale of Halo. And like I mentioned at the top of this episode, we're going to be covering The Boys. Season 3 is premiering on Amazon Prime coming up in June. I'll actually be gone for that premiere.
And we may be toying with the time we go live, and it may be on a Saturday, early Saturdays.
Yeah.
If that helps anybody to watch live or catch it throughout the day.
Yeah, but we'll keep you updated on everything Dad and Rock that's coming up. Be sure to join us next weekend for the Halo finale.
If you haven't already, follow our Twitter account.
Yeah,
that's where I'll go ahead and if we're going to go ahead and we're going to change the time frame and everything, I'll make sure I put it out there so everybody knows when we will be going live.
All right. What do you say? Are we? Is that it for a week? Join us next week.
I think that's good.
All right.
We're gonna
see ya.
Say goodbye.
See ya.